All right. Welcome back to another episode of The Close-Up, a part of the Orlando Magic HQ Network. What's going on? My name's Stephen Cameron, host of The Close-Up. I'm psyched to be with you all today with another episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a great guest today. We got Jake Fischer, NBA insider for many, many years. He was with Yahoo Sports for a very long time. Now he's doing stuff with Mark Stein and Bleacher Report again, where he used to work as well. And we have a really good conversation. We talk a little bit about NBA media landscape. We talk a bit about kind of what could be happening with the Orlando Magic with this resurgence of Frazn Wagner, Paolo, who's been out for a little bit, kind of what things could happen around the trade deadline with this Magic roster. It's a really good conversation that Jake and I have. We did record that episode, our conversation, last Friday. So it was a few days before we got the Frazn Wagner news, where he has a torn right oblique, same injury as Paolo, and he's out reevaluated for 4 weeks. It's not fun news. It really sucks. It's really weird that both Paolo and Franz have the same injury, kind of got it in same fashion, like in the second half of a game, played through it, and then it comes out the next day that they're out for a significant period of time. Now, a couple silver linings, right? The Magic, they should be getting Paolo back in the next week or so, is my opinion. It's a little bit of speculation, but he has been ramping up his workload on the court a bit. That's been reported by multiple people. Our man Brett James has a great article that he recapped last night's game, the game against the Suns. He recapped that game and gave some really good insights on kind of the Frazn Wagner injury and the latest on Paolo as well. So check out that article. I'll have it linked in the comments below. And then you'll also it's just bummer news, right? But the cool thing is, we saw the Magic in action on Monday, December 9th. We saw the Magic in action Monday, December 9th. We saw the Magic back in action on Sunday versus the Phenix Suns. It was a wild game. I think a lot of us had a lot of questions on what was going to happen with the Magic's lineup, kind of who was going to be thrown into that starting role with Franz being out, and we got those answers. Coach Mosley decided to bring up Tristan da Silva, and the starting lineup looked like this. You had Jalen, Suggs, Caldwell Pope. The two bigs were Wendell and Goga playing next to each other, Wendell at the 4, and then Tristan da Silva filling in at that small forward position. This game was interesting. We saw so many different dynamics being played here. The Phenix Suns were a mostly healthy team. They did have a few people out. They had Nurkic out and Kevin Durant, but they still had Bradley Beal. They still had Devin Booker. Royce O'Neal played a really good game. Grayson Allen, he was hitting shots last night. So there is just a lot to be, it wasn't going to be an easy win, even with Franz. So to see the Magic gut out a win was pretty awesome. It was not the prettiest game in the world. The Magic had a decent amount of turnovers in that first half. They ended the game with 13 turnovers, but they forced the Phoenix Suns into 19 turnovers. That was really, really important thing for this team. A couple of the key players that really stuck out, immediately within the first few minutes, Tristan da Silva hit a couple of shots. And played pretty well. He did have a few issues here and there, but he kind of got the Magic going on that initial momentum from the start. And then you had Cole Anthony coming in off the bench. He had a tremendous first half, and a good second half too, but I think everyone was excited in the first half watching him. He was hitting shots, playing hard, playing aggressive, also looking to pass to other teammates to get them open. He was hitting pull-up threes. He had this insane drive where it looked like he was wanting to dunk, and then he got met at the rim with two people, and he just kind of did this sinking back floater, and it just looked beautiful. He had this insane chase down block in the third quarter. I think it was the third quarter on Devin Booker. Devin Booker ended up, the Phoenix Suns ended up getting the rebound. Devin Booker went to the corner. Cole was guarding him very well. Devin Booker just has more size, is an insane shot maker, and made a tough three. But that block, I think it was Adam Papagiorgio said it online. It's it was kind of a momentum changing moment for the Magic there. And then of course you have Jalen Suggs closing out this game beautifully. Jalen Suggs ended the game with 26 points. He shot 40% from three, hitting 4 out of 10 shots. He went 8 from 18 from the field, hitting 6 of 7 free throws. It was a really nice game from Jalen. And then, shout out to Goga Bitadze. He had probably the game of his season, career high of 16 rebounds, 9 offensive rebounds. He was just a monster on the offensive board. He had 21 points. He was doing all the dirty work, tip-ins, just kind of cleaning up the glass, which was really important for this team that, needed to really find ways to win. Wendell Carter Jr. was solid, not really crazy high scoring wise or even rebounding. He went 6 and 5, 6 points, 5 rebounds, but just being in the right place at the right time, playing good defense. He wasn't a team high in plus minus, but he was the third highest at plus 13 on the court, which also was the only starter in a positive plus minus. So, and then you have all the usual suspects. Mo Wagner put up 10 points. Contavious Caldwell Pope, 40% from three. Got 8 points, 3 steals, an assist. He played well. Jet Howard came in, gave us a couple of points. Had 6 points for the team, played some good defense. I saw him give some really good defense on some Devin Booker mid-range, a couple of possessions, which was really nice. Caleb Houston even came in and knocked down a couple of threes in non-garbage time. It was fun. Caleb Houston, by the way, playing kind of those minutes, those backup Jonathan Isaac minutes, since Jonathan Isaac did not play. It was a good game. Obviously, there were still some guys on the Phenix Suns that got some points. Devin Booker went off for 25 points and 7 assists. That guy is just a machine. Tyus Jones seems to kill us a little bit every time. He had 21 points, 6 assists. Royce O'Neal, that dude's good. He went 4 of 6 from 3 for 16 points. Grayson Allen had 13 points off the bench. It was a good game. My wife and I and my daughter, we watched it together. We had a lot of fun. And, that's a game no one really expected the Magic to win. It came out that Jonathan Isaac kind of pulled the team together the day before with the team meeting, talking about, how this team can win. The team was really encouraging of Jalen Suggs to kind of step up and be the player for the Magic, and Jalen really took to it. He mentioned in an interview after the game that he was, really processing his mindset at halftime going into the second half, and making it about the team and not about him, and just wanting to, be the leader that the team needs him to be on the court. And it showed, he closed this game beautifully for the Magic. Magic beat the Phenix Suns 115-110, which brings the Magic to 17-9 for the season. They still have a nice 3-game cushion on the Knicks, who are 14-9. And then you got the Heat and the Bucks, both with 12 wins behind the Knicks at the 5th and 6th spot. The Magic's next couple of games, they're big games, So on Tuesday, they have the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee for the quarterfinals for the Cup. That's going to be a tough game. The Bucks are playing pretty good basketball. They did have a 7-game winning streak for a little bit. Then they lost to Atlanta and Boston. They beat Brooklyn last night. So they're starting to find form. Giannis and Dame are playing really good basketball. Giannis is MVP candidate right now. Insane at the moment. I don't have his numbers right off the top of my head at the moment, but he's playing really, really good basketball. They're getting a lot of support from their role players, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green, or Griffin. I think that's his name. He's starting to play really well. So that's not going to be an easy win. I think Chris Middleton might be back for the game too, which will be another dynamic. And again, high pressure TNT game, NBA Cup quarterfinals. So it'll be a really good test for the Magic. And yeah, it's not going to be easy. Then if you look at the Magic's schedule after that, after Milwaukee Bucks, on Tuesday, they have Oklahoma City. They travel to they host Oklahoma City for another TNT game. So they have 2 TNT games this week. Again, Oklahoma City, they're killing it in the Western Conference right now. They're playing really, really well. You know, they have Isaiah Hartenstein back in the lineup. He was out for a while. He's back. They're playing great. So that's not going to be an easy team to play. And then they host Miami, Boston, Miami, New York, Brooklyn to round out the month. So not really it's kind of a hard stretch coming up. I do expect, though, that this stretch, because these are all home games, Oklahoma, Miami, Boston, Miami, New York, Brooklyn, those are all home games. That is the window that I think we can see Paolo Banchero come back. I'm hoping he could come back between the 19th and 1st. You know, those are in 3 games. That might be a little bit of wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that he comes back during this homestand. It's pretty common for players that go out for long term that they come back home on the road, or they're sleeping in their own bed, they're training at their own training facility, can get a little bit better repetition with their schedule, with their rehab at home than on the road. So this is my window where I think he's going to come back. I feel pretty good about that. So we'll see. You know, the Knicks are right on the Magic's tail. They, like I said, they're 3 games behind the Magic. They've played 3 less games than the Magic as well. Their next schedule looks like on the road in Toronto, at home versus Atlanta, at Minnesota, at New Orleans, hosting Toronto. That rounds them out to December 23rd. They need to find a couple of losses there. The Magic have a little bit of a cushion, but we also need the Knicks to lose some games. So we'll see what happens. All right, that's kind of my initial thoughts on the Magic currently. Obviously, we want to keep tabs on how they continue to adjust with life without Franz, without Paolo. We need Jalen. We need Jonathan Isaac and Gary Harris back on the court with their defense. Those are interesting, good players for this team, so we need them back. And obviously, we hope Franz gets back early in January. Before we get to the conversation with Jake Fischer, shout out to BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selections of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Reason why BELIEVE is the promo code is that is also the podcast networks that supports us on our audio platforms. Our next partner is someone who I love working with, Brendan Kravitz. Zoneheads, it's that time of year, and Brendan Kravitz is partnering with Hourglass Brewing in downtown Orlando for an epic holiday celebration. It's the relaunch of the Zoneheads 35 with that classic Magic pinstripe look. It's a delicious seasonable IPA that beer enthusiasts and Magic fans alike will absolutely love. Head over to Hourglass Brewing on Curry Ford Road Friday, December 20th for the official release and hang out with Brandon Kravitz and the crew starting at 6 p.m. I think members of our crew will be there. I almost thought about changing my entire family plans to come in early for this. I live in California, as you guys know, but I still come to Orlando all the time to visit family. My wife was not psyched on when I suggested changing our flights earlier. So I will not be at this, but I'll be there in spirit. So if you can, go check it out. Also, all new episodes of the Zonehead podcast with Brandon and his new co-host, Zach, are available wherever you download your favorites. And check out BK Live on In the Zone weekdays, 96.9 The Game, on game days starting at 3:30. Shout out to our Patreons. We got some good stuff coming your way. If you're all interested in joining the Patreon program where you get tons of exclusive content, check out the link below and consider joining. All right, let's get to this awesome conversation that I have with Jake Fischer. I hope you all enjoy it. Go Magic. All right, everyone. Like I said, we got Jake Fischer, NBA insider, recently rejoining his home Bleacher Report and like the powerhouse of Mark Stein. Jake, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. I just kind of briefly mentioned it there, but you've gone through a lot of transition in the last couple of months. You were with Yahoo for a few years. Now you're back with Bleacher Report and now teaming up with Mark Stein's awesome Substack channel that he's got going on. Can you tell us a little bit how life has been since then? Like it's for us, for me, who, has been following you for a while. It doesn't seem like a whole lot's changed. I'm just going to different places to read your work now. But how's it been for you?
Yeah, my day-to-day is not so different either. Like I'm still in front of the same podcast backgrounds, and I do my phone calls from largely a different desk over there, and they just end up at markstein.substack.com and not Yahoo. And my podcasting-ish stuff is on video at Bleacher Report in the BR app every Friday. We're recording this today on Friday the 6th, though in like 4 hours I'll be doing that again. But it was a whirlwind figuring all that out. I'll say that. I mean, yeah, my contract had an option in it that, Yahoo decided to go a different direction. We had new management come in, just like, when the Orlando Magic get taken over by Jeff Weltman and
Sure.
not Rob Hennigan, took over from Rob Hennigan and decided to it took some time, but decided to send out, Vooch and Aaron Gordon and whoever. Like, got kind of caught up in a similar dynamic, but fortunately, going back to Bleacher Report's been phenomenal. They were the platform that really helped me get my start in the insider lane of things. Before that, I was really just but I applied my trade as a features writer
Yeah.
at Sports Illustrated, which is where I really started to develop a lot of connections around the league, writing personality profile type stuff with guys. And so we've just been building those relationships to the point where now, I just call people from my phone in my room and try to piece together what's happening on the NBA trade market. And we're doing it now behind a paywall, but we believe the quality of content between the Hall of Famer Mark Stein and myself is worth the depending on, I mean, it averages out to like $2.2 a month.
Yeah.
Please subscribe to the Stein line at markstein.substack.com if you want to read all of our work. That is my opening pitch.
I will say too, like it's good. I've read a few things recently, and it's good. Definitely worth the value for sure. It seems like Mark has kind of been a little bit integrated into your career for a little while now. At least someone you've talked to recently. How has that happened with you? And like, what's your guys' relation? I imagine your relationship's great if you're working together, but just give us a little bit more about that.
There's not many people. I started to realize this the last couple of years while I was at Yahoo. Because honestly, if we want to really pull back the curtain, when I first started at Yahoo, I got the deal in like August. I couldn't start till the end of September. And then like there wasn't really much for me to do in the beginning. They kept saying like, "Oh, just get settled in, like write a preview thing here and there. Like the real work's going to start, in December."
Sure.
So I remember like all of a sudden just getting a wave of depression, being that like you fight and claw to try to make it to this mountaintop in the industry. I had one of the best jobs in the business. I was the senior NBA reporter at Yahoo Sports, this role that, Adrian Wojnarowski had when I was an intern at Sports Illustrated my junior year of college. And like I had to wait for Woj's lunch with Kristaps Porzingis at some Midtown Manhattan restaurant, and then I got like 20 minutes with KP, and then like 7 years later I had that job, but like it was still the same thing. I just was getting paid more, and I kind of was like, man, what is this all about? Like, I don't know. It was a tough road for a bit, to like get everything settled in, and then I started to realize like there's few people who actually know that lifestyle, who know what it's like to just be on your phone all day hounding people. And Stein was one of them. And also, from the moment I first met him, he was always so kind to me. Like, this is a very cutthroat kind of dog eat dog industry where it's just like the NBA. It's actually even harder than the NBA, being that, there's 30 coaching staffs in the league. So anytime a head coach is on the hot seat, you've got people all over the NBA, all over the world in basketball coaching who are looking at, they're ready to throw a knife in that head coach's back because it can either get them a job or it can get their friend a job who could potentially hire them.
Sure.
So it always stood out to me that Stein wasn't like that. Like I met him, I went down to Dallas just for fun with my friends. I'm from Philly, went down to see an Eagles Cowboys weekend a couple of times over. And just since I was there being a good reporter, I like went over to Mavs practice. And I remember I worked on this story about it was Dirk's last season. Dirk and Vince Carter were both playing at the age of 40. And like, it was just an interesting story to me. Like, how are these guys physically getting their bodies ready to play at 40? And it was in large part because the Mavericks PR staff, then under Scott Tomlin, and now under Alan Rakowski, they're still really great. But like, they were just really good to me, and they like brought me back through the locker room to the medical training room to interview Porzingis. And Stein was like, "Who's this kid who's just like coming in here and getting 20 minutes with Dirk in like the back private room?" So he was just kind to me. And then as we started both doing he was obviously been doing it since I was in middle school, but as I started joining him in the Intel transaction world, just became like someone that we could vent to each other about things, and we couldn't really say too much because we're protecting our people from each other,
Right.
let alone the public, let alone whoever. But we would say stuff like, "Man, you beat me to that story. Like, oh, I couldn't get that one over the finish line if I had one more person." And it started to kind of shift into, man, like if we worked together, we'd be a force kind of thing. So, when I started canvassing my options, I didn't want to be in a position where I could get let go again. And that's just the reality when you have a full-time job in this business. Zach Lowe got laid off like a couple weeks after, I did, and he's the best analyst in the game. So I don't know if this is going to work. Like, I'm really hoping it does long term. I'm super optimistic. So far, Steven, you've liked the returns. And
Yeah.
I think we're only going to continue to bring more and more really interesting stuff as there's more stuff actually happening on the trade market. Like right now, we're kind of just canvassing and like setting the board and setting the table and seeing what pieces are going to move. But we've already gotten really great feedback, and I think it's been rewarding to know that we're writing for the people who really want us, like the people who really want to see our stuff. They're paying us a little bit, and we're giving the goods right back. So that type of model, I think, is really rewarding, and it's also rewarding to do it alongside someone who I do really consider a friend.
Yeah, and like an OG in the industry, he's been doing it for a really long time, and I think there's always something powerful when you're bringing someone who's been doing something like really well at a high level for a very long time, and then bringing someone who's been doing it really well but much newer within the industry. It's like you can get so many different perspectives on how things operate a little bit and tweak and combine to just bring different types of content. I just think it's going to be really fun to watch you two grow and watch your platform grow as well.
Thanks, man.
Speaking of media, the NBA has the conversation this year around the NBA is just a lot of it has been around like the ratings and the views, and also like this new thing with the NBA Cup and things like that. And are they doing the right things? Is the NBA in a good spot? And I've been having a couple of conversations that I haven't necessarily expressed on a podcast yet, but I wanted to kind of gut check you on it. Where do you think the NBA's like media partners, and when I say media partners, I mostly mean like ESPN, TNT, like their bigger broadcast partners, but also to the extent reporters, insiders, and things like that, even, a platform like mine, where do you think the responsibility and accountability for the success of the league falls within the media?
Yeah. I think I come at this from someone who does my job and who is a really big football fan. I don't think the NBA does a good enough job as an overall apparatus of looking at the league as a television show. And I think it's even more apparent when, I don't know what it's going to look like, but from what I've been hearing behind the scenes, NBC and Amazon don't have too many plans on changing the landscape of what national NBA broadcast looks like. And if you go back to what Amazon did when they got Thursday Night Football in the NFL, I believe they literally just hired the NBC production team that does Sunday Night Football and like recreated it with blue instead of the peacock, purple, yellow, green stuff. So I think there needs to be, especially like looking at what Hard Knocks does, and whenever you get a mic'd up clip of people that kind of goes viral, like to me, the real benefit of these media rights partnership deals is not just the ability to broadcast games. It's you're paying to get additional access that other media outlets don't have. So like when I go to the finals, I can't even technically be on the court I mean, you weasel your way on because you know someone.
Right.
Like I can go on the court pregame any game until the finals because it's only media who are rights holders who get to do that. And also, every time a game's on TNT or ESPN right now, that broadcast group gets time with the head coach and with a star player in the back room to film for the broadcast. And usually the questions are like, is this a rivalry game? Or like, what do you make of being the number 2 on this team? Like I don't think there's like worthwhile use of that stuff. Like I think I think the league would also really benefit from having a real set schedule. Like we know with football you're getting Monday, Thursday, and Saturday and Sunday, like largely. And I think that really helps, even down to the fact like you know most teams, if you follow a football team really closely, you know what day of the week your favorite player and your coaching staff are talking. Like the offensive coordinator talks Monday, and the quarterback talks Monday, and the defensive coordinator talks Tuesday, and the star linebacker. Like that flow, that cycle, I think really helps people follow what the product is. If you don't know why an NBA Cup game is Tuesday and then there's a back-to-back and there's no NBA Cup on Wednesday, you're just kind of hodgepodging it all together. I think that's the real crux of the issue to me. I mean, the heightened attention on transaction stuff, I think is fine. I don't think that's taking away from the game. I think that the league needs to do a better way of using that interest and selling it before the game. You know, Alperen Şengün is playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, let's talk about how he's been motivated by the fact Milwaukee almost went out and signed Brook Lopez this past summer. Like, stuff like that. I don't know. I think there's more ways to maybe like pro wrestling-ify the NBA a little bit. Like, talk about the transaction stuff that was and did and couldn't have been. But yeah, that's my ramble about it all.
No, I mean, you're hitting a lot of tones that like are also resonating with me and my thought process with it too. It's like it doesn't seem like they're really selling the right stories. They're just kind of like, on an NBA Cup game. Well, what does this night mean to you? Well, the answer and also like part of the response, like I don't think necessarily the teams and the coaches do a great job of selling the product either. They're just, well,
Yeah,
this is just another night for us. We're only thinking
yeah,
about tonight and the next game will be the next game. It's like you could sell that a little bit better.
for
Just
sure.
like I think like the media could stop acting like the NBA Cup is so hard to understand and like actually sell into that a little bit more. Like you watch an NBA Cup group game in the last few weeks and half the time they're laughing about it. Like, I don't understand point differential. It's not that hard to understand. It's really
Yeah.
basic stuff, right?
The other thing too about the in-season tournament, not to cut you off,
No, you're fine.
the more attention you spend on increasing more value into those games, that's coming from the place of trying to improve the regular season as a product that doesn't matter.
Right.
It actually kind of is inherently devaluing the Wednesday night game on the second half of the back of the back. I don't know, there's money on the line in the NBA Cup, and then like there's obviously you get your game check for playing in that and the game on Wednesday night. But like, see what I'm saying? There's some weird devaluing of the actual regular season games if you're trying to add so much value into the NBA Cup games. It's kind of bizarre.
It is a little weird. And there's a lot of things that need to be tweaked with the NBA. I think we all agree on that. I don't actually think the NBA is like it's still as popular as it's like it's they just got multi-billion-dollar TV deals. Like you don't do that if the league is really, really struggling, but they definitely have some things they can do to improve it. And like I do think media have a part of that story to make it successful. But we have the media complaining about it's not successful, but it's like, what are they doing to help improve the success, right? Are you evolving as well? Anyways, that's only part of the conversation while we're here, and we're quickly running out of time. So I want to jump into some Magic specific
Let's
content,
do it.
right?
One of my favorite teams.
They're fun right now, like no one would have expected them to be where they are without Paolo Banchero, but to see this.
No, I'm just kidding.
Did you? I mean, if you did, bro, you can come on the show every week. You're open invite. It's fun, man. Like, Franz has taken this massive leap, clearly an all-star, potentially like all NBA if he keeps this up, if Paolo and him can figure out their dynamic when he comes back. It's just been really incredible. Top 3 defense in the league since pretty much day one. Coach Mosley was a nominee for Coach of the Month last month. Franz was a nominee for Player of the Month. Suggs Suggs was a nominee for Defensive Player of the Month. Like, they are in all the conversations right now. My question right now is, like, with Paolo of missing so much time, he played like roughly 5 games, and Franz taking this massive leap, is the league kind of viewing things a little bit differently with this team than maybe they were before, when the players played a little bit of different roles and Paolo was on the team? Like, how do you think things have changed a little bit given the growth of Franz and the evolution of this team without Paolo?
I think like the viewpoint around the league honestly hasn't changed so much. The whole thing with Orlando, and everyone who's listening to this absolutely knows this, was, in that 7-game series against Cleveland, and even for large stretches of last season, as Paolo was emerging into this bona fide all-star, Franz really wasn't following him in lockstep. Like, the shooting was down. Finishing inside was like not a strength of his, which I remember being disappointed about, because I wrote a story back in the beginning of last season about how him and Mo were living together, and Franz was Mo's landlord. So I wanted like the landlord to become a nickname.
I remember reading that article.
Yeah, and I was like, we can't really call him the landlord because he owns the paint. Like, that would have been interesting if he was
Right.
finishing inside. And he didn't really like own an area of the court anyway, so it didn't work out. Like, the shot was just, I remember I want to write that story because I was in Manila for the World Cup and just like really loved watching that Germany, the German national team win the gold there. I thought they had a really good chance to beat anyone at the Olympics, and obviously they fell short a bit there as well. But yeah, I've seen Franz and Paolo as this new age Rashard Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu from the very beginning, and they're arguably the greatest counterpart to Boston's Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown setup that we've seen. So I think really the question is, to your point, can Franz keep this up when Paolo is back? But why can't he, right? Like, they're still playing the same style. Franz isn't necessarily dominating the ball in a way where he's like going to have to yield all these touches. Like, there's so many ball handlers in Orlando. Suggs brings it up. I think Anthony Black's progression has been really notable too.
It's super fun.
How more comfortable he is making plays. He's not just someone like standing in the corner waiting to do something. Like that Philly game last night, like he kept getting to the rim because like he just saw an opening and like, I'm Anthony Black, so I'm gonna take this. And even like Tristan da Silva getting more time in there. Like, I think there has been some silver linings obviously to all this. And you're right, the hope is just how does everyone, keep up their type of production when Paolo comes back. The good news is that Paolo, as much as he is a scorer by trade, like, he's a playmaker as well. Like, he will absolutely get off that ball. The Magic do something that so many teams don't do, is they'll run pick and rolls to then, hunt the switch of post ups inside because they've got these big wings. Like, that puts Paolo in scoring positions, but also it's really easy to pass out of the post. So I'm eager to see how it all comes together. I'm not concerned about it. And I think overall, to bring this to a close, Paolo said something in Asia when he was doing his Jordan Brand tour about like, we expect to be a top 4 seed in the East. And like, they were the 5th seed last year. So why shouldn't they be? And I think they're right in line with where their natural life cycle of this team was expected to be.
It's definitely fun watching the step, because we all like you mentioned, Franz was very inconsistent in certain elements of his game last year, and he's just on this incredible run where it seems like he's kind of figured that out. And I think it's really powerful to have Paolo watching, who I'm sure had trust in his partner, but like now watching him and like, cool, how can we leverage this in our abilities even more? It's going to be really fun.
Those
Jake,
two guys,
I know
I'll just say.
Oh yeah, sure.
I spent a lot of time with them in the locker rooms last season. Those two guys really value each other, and they know that like the other one is coming if they're like, I think there's a friendly competition in terms of like development and a respect of like how hard they work and how good they are. There was a lot more emphasis last season on them both running pick and roll together on both sides of it, that they're trying to figure out, the benefits of it. It was mostly, I think, I don't know the numbers. I'm sure Franz set more screens for Paolo and vice versa.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe that will flip now. Maybe, that number becomes more even. But I think they're both really open to using each other and growing next to each other.
It should only benefit both their games, in my opinion. Jake, I know we're pretty much out of time, but I'm going to ask one more question before we wrap this up, because you're the insider, right? Like, I got to figure out the inside information. we're not quite in trade season yet. We're like, about 10 days, 9 days or so away from December 15th, where conversations start ramping up. Maybe we'll see a transaction or two, but then, closer to the deadline is when things actually start heating up. What are you kind of expecting from this Magic this year? Like, the front office has only made one or two aggressive moves since they've come into place. They haven't always been in a position to be a buying team, and it seems like this year might be their first position to be a buyer instead of a seller or a stagnant. What are you kind of thinking and feeling and hearing about the Magic and how they might operate between now and the trade deadline, if they might do anything at all?
Yeah, to be honest, the Magic have not come up at all in like any early whispers at this juncture. I think largely because they are a team missing their lead all-star, and you want to evaluate what your group looks like when healthy. One thing I will say is just in this new CBA landscape, where a lot of teams aren't able to A, aggregate salaries because they're in the first apron, or B, they don't want to take back more money and then get hard capped at the first apron or whatever. There are just also generally few teams that have contracts like Cole Anthony, like Wendell Carter, like Goga, where Gary Harris even at $7.5 million, where I'm not saying I know what the Magic are looking to do yet, but to be clear, but the Magic are positioned to potentially combine 2 or 3 different contracts and go get another $15 to $20 million player that has real value that just a lot of other teams don't. Like, you look at Cleveland right now, a team right in the Magic's mix here. They've got all their stars on big money deals. Evan Mobley's not right now, but he's technically poison pill with his thing. If the Magic, if the Cavs want to go make a real trade, their mid-level salary guys are all guys that play for them. Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, George Niang. Like, they don't really have necessarily, like, I don't know, expendable guys.
Sure.
I don't want to say anyone's expendable because I don't want anyone to feel like they're like a contract or something like that. But even Orlando, like, obviously those guys I just mentioned, Cole Anthony, Wendell is a starter. Like, Goga's played start minutes. Gary Harris, I think, is the one guy I think Magic fans would absolutely agree is more of like a just veteran locker room presence, type of role player, not like a central cog of the core. But like, the Magic just have options in order to go do something that I don't think other teams do. So I just say that to say they are positioned to make a move and add in ways that they haven't been positioned in the past, and that many other teams aren't positioned in. So that will be a benefit to them, and they could potentially go get some things done this summer or this winter that other teams might not necessarily be able to.
And I think we might, again, I don't have the inside, I don't hear the conversations like you do, but from my perspective, it does seem like the team's finally in a position to be a little bit more aggressive for a positive move. Just like we saw this past summer, they were aggressive to go sign one of the bigger free agents with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and not just like a Joe Ingles type of, no disrespect to Joe Ingles, but there's levels to this,
Love Joe
right?
Ingles.
So yeah, he's great. So Jake, I really appreciate your time. We could keep talking for much longer. That just means we're going to have to get you on the show again sometime in the future. Let us know, let the people know where we kind of mentioned it already, but go ahead and plug anything you want to plug before we sign off.
Appreciate it. Again, the Stein line on Substack, markstein.substack.com, and I'll be going live on the Bleacher Report app, doing insider video streams at least once a week, and then we're picking it up far more frequently as we get deeper and deeper into trade season. So stay tuned to all that stuff.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Fellas, listeners of the show, make sure you check out Jake Fischer. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you already are. That's going to wrap up another episode of The Close-Up, a part of the Orlando Magic HQ Network. We'll see you next week. Peace.